Okay, week 3 of our Men of a Certain X podcast. I'm Dave Pounder, and I'm joined by Andy Jabor, my lifelong friend, or at least it seems like a lifetime,
Seems
Andy.
like two lifetimes at this point, Dave.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough, Andy. So we're back with Men of a Certain X. Again, I promise as we move forward, we will not be recounting each of the weeks and labeling the week numbers. But here we are, Andy. Our audience continues to grow. They're finding the spot of you and I talking about all sorts of things, Andy.
I'm
How have
yeah.
you been, Andy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks. It's exciting to see people dialing in. Always appreciate a chance to pull up and chat with you, Dave. It's good to have our morning coffee together. Morning coffee, by the way, a great song from Joywave if you want to check it out. But it's good to have that time with you, and I think I've been really enjoying the podcast. I'm glad others are as well.
We'll have to talk a little bit about music, Andy, because I will tell you on my weekend, which we'll recount here in a minute here. I did put together a playlist, quite a retro playlist
Oh,
back to
nice.
the early when you and I were running the streets, Andy. I think so. It's good times. But I'll recount that. I'll save that either for later today or our next pod. But
All right, all right.
Andy, how was your weekend? Because mine was great on a lot of levels, but then disappointing from a sports check-in time. So, Andy, let's do a sports check-in. This has got to be weird for you. I mean, after decades of humiliating football play and just awful looking, half empty stadiums and this and that, the Detroit Lions are good.
Are good, Dave. I think my guess, we're recording this on a Tuesday morning. Folks are probably listening to this on Wednesday. And I'm guessing that by the time people are listening to this, the NFL has published their weekly power rankings. And I'm throwing down the Lions breaking the top five this week. I think they do it. I think the Bills stumble. I'm not sure if the Dolphins hold their position, to be honest. And I'm thinking the Lions squeak in at number 5. Worst case, number 6. But it's exciting to see the Lions look really good. They did exactly what they needed to do against the Carolina Panthers. And people forget that they did that without a few key players and some guys were banged up and some guys were just back on the field for the first time. The Lions look ferocious. They look awesome. The last time they had 4 wins in the first 5 games, they were 5-0 in 2011, the year they lost in the playoffs to the New Orleans Saints. And I just got over that grudge about a year ago because I hated the Saints for that loss for a long time. I'm over it now, but I hold those things in my heart for a long time. So this year, the Lions are looking really good at 4-1. They're already in a great position to make a good run for the NFC North crown in the playoffs. Dave, I'm sorry for you, but from a Lions fan standpoint, it was a great football weekend.
Look, the Carolina Panthers are not good, but what the Lions did was just never put it in doubt. I mean, like look, they're all professional athletes. They're all capable of playing at a high level. And so you can't rest on some of these teams like the Cowboys did against the Cardinals a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago. You're just going to get beat and you're going to look humiliated. The Lions, what tells me that they're a good team, is they just came in and stomped on their throats and just, put it away from the very beginning. So
Yeah.
that was good. So Andy, I am happy for you. I mean, but my sports weekend was an utter disaster. Now, look, my weekend in general is my wife and I were celebrating our 25th anniversary. So kudos to us, but we also went up as part of that to Baltimore to see what we thought was going to be a great weekend of Orioles baseball. And it turned out the weekend was great. We went to a great restaurant, one of our favorite restaurants up in
Yeah.
Baltimore. We went to the Orioles game. It was a really competitive game on Saturday. The Orioles lost 3-2. It was great to be in the stadium again, be back in that environment. The crowd was really electric. It was really fun. And it was a well-played game. Look, I mean, the Orioles lost, and I can accept it. The next day, though, the Orioles got just I mean, the final score was 11-8, and kudos, they kept fighting. And look, I think this team has a lot of fight moving forward, but you can't walk 11 batters in a playoff game and expect to win. They got down 9-2. Their bullpen was just atrocious. It was not very fun to watch, to the point where there may have been pounding on tables, and very discussed. And then I thought, but again, Texas was a good ball team. I didn't want to play them, but it is what it is. And then on Sunday night, thought I'd wrap up the weekend with a good, relaxing football game, a good competitive football game. And let's just turn the page, Andy. The Cowboys, you can say what you want about them. Everyone's going to say their defense is awesome and they've got all these great players. Their quarterback is mediocre. I mean, he's a middle of the road quarterback. I like Dak. I'll take him over half the football league, but I'm just done with expectations. We'll 10-7, maybe 11-6, but first round exit. I just don't see much more. I just can't. I just have to start setting expectations, Andy.
Yeah, it was a tough loss. Dak's numbers were very not remarkable. So Dave, I won't make your misery any worse on that. But as somebody that follows baseball like I follow professional knitting, remind me, is this a best out of 5 series or best out of 7? Or what are you supposed to do here?
Yeah, so baseball's done something unique over the years. So this is the best out of 5. So the first round is a wild card, which was earlier this last week. It used to be a 1-game wild card, and everyone was complaining about, hey, how does a great team lose on 1 game? And so they did a best of 3, but then in doing so, they made the American League division series is 5 games, and then the championship series and the World Series are 7 games, Andy. So thanks. So
thank you for educating me. I appreciate that. Well, hey, Dave,
yeah.
New week, new weekend of sports coming up. We'll move on. We'll move forward. Always forward.
Okay. Yeah. So that's our sports check-in, Andy. Anything more you want to comment on for your Lions? I mean, look, you got a 2-game lead on the Packers who lost last night. So, yeah. I mean, it's
a big game of the week coming up against the Bucs this week. The Bucs look like a better team than I expected. The last time I was live watching the Lions play Baker Mayfield in Cleveland with my sons. And, Baker is not a bad quarterback, and he's doing well down there in Tampa Bay, a team I like, to be honest with you. So it should be a really good game Sunday afternoon, and I'm looking forward to the Lions getting another dub and showing that they really are a top-tier team in the NFL. So it should be great.
I mean, Tampa's got good weapons. I mean, it's a good team. They just had terrible play last year and in some places. And Baker, I think he got a bad rap for all those progressive commercials or Snickers and all those other, whatever he was doing up there. So, okay, Andy, good on the sports check-in. Let's move on to some other topics, Andy. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention what was happening in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine and what's going on there and the attack, Hamas. Look, we're not here to be political consultants or security experts today. We have other lives that we do things on, and we have other podcasts that we talked about. But Andy, just real quick on your side, what are your thoughts on this as you've seen this play out over the last couple of days?
Yeah, so thanks, Dave. So today's point, just to acknowledge it. So Dave and I, do a professional security focused podcast, but that's not this. We're not talking security and resilience and those items today. You can check that out separately if you want. But for today, I think really, Dave, for me, it's sort of just taking in the actual events of what happened, right? And, one, just awful. I mean, it's awful to see such a tragic loss of life. And, with this issue with Israel and Palestine, it's just such an emotional issue for many people, and you hear sort of people saying, well, Netanyahu brought this on, right? He incited this violence. And look, at the end of the day, absent, blatant violence, nothing invites death and carnage like what happened in Israel, right? Political issues aside, oppression of people aside, however you want to look at it, there's no justification for what happened in Israel. It was a despicable military action that has resulted in chaos, tragedy, just so much, and it was horribly wrong. And the thing, that always gets me, and just to be completely open, right? I mean, I'm half Palestinian, and the thing that always frustrates me about the Palestinian people and the cause, one, is it's always manipulated by outside forces for their own interests, which is unfortunate, as is the case today with Iran. But two, this is going to come back and absolutely destroy the Palestinian people in a horrific way, right? Israel, rightfully so, is going to retaliate ferociously. and it's going to damage the Palestinian cause. It's going to hurt another generation of Palestinian people. It's going to exacerbate the hate and anger on both sides. Just an absolute debacle, a terrible decision, awful action, disgusting to see the loss of life. And this is the big issue to me of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian leadership, whether it's the PLA, the PLO, Hamas, whoever, is the use of violence will never achieve the ends that the Palestinian people or cause want. It will never succeed. It will always be thumped by a much more powerful Israeli state. It will never receive the approval of the outside world. It's just awful. It's awful. So, from my standpoint, Dave, this is a terrible decision, a horrible loss of life that's not going to result in the loss of more lives, unjustified, not in any way rationally supported, and just sets the cause and the political dynamic back so far there. So really sad to see what's going on right now in Israel. And while I am not a Netanyahu fan, I don't support the government he's put together right now. Hey, look, he's got every right to go back and respond to what happened. And this is just going to galvanize his position and his coalition. It's just going to have terrible blowback for Hamas and the Palestinian people. Terrible to see what's playing out right now.
Yeah, I want to latch onto that too, Andy, because I just don't like, in what world, in what environment do you sit there and say that this, look, of all of our actions, of all of our steps that we can take, and I do believe there is a solution moving forward where you could have I'm in favor of a two-state solution there. I think there is an opportunity there, but you're not going to get that, and I think frankly that's more distant than ever.
Yeah.
When you go in and take an act like this, and in what corner of the room are the advisors saying, "Hey, I know, let's go do this, and let's go massacre and kidnap and do all of this work." And look, there's no you and I both served in the military. We've both been in combat situations, and I think we can respect the level of force on force where professional militaries or professional soldiers are engaging one another in conflict.
Yeah.
There are steps for that. What happened this weekend was not that. And to your point, the Israeli government and the Israeli military, they are already responding in measures that haven't been seen in years.
Yeah.
And I think it sets everything back. I mean, I think it sets all of this work that has been put in place back. And Israel has every right to do what they did. I know the Palestinian people feel they had no other choice, and that's unfortunate. That they said they had no other choice was this. So I think it's a really tough situation. We have a lot of friends and that are connected in this conflict in some way or another. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but it's really an unfortunate situation, frankly.
Can I say, Dave? I mean, the idea that you have no other choice but violence is just simply, unfortunately, it's just not true, right? It's just not true, right? I mean, absent defending yourself against a violent attack, there's always another choice. And to be candid, the Palestinian people, the Palestinian governments, the Palestinian cause, however you want to categorize these different players that are involved in this, have never truly tried diplomacy without the threat of violence, right? And as long as you hold the sword in the hand there, a sword that is weaker than your opponent's sword, like you just aren't going to get where you want to get to. And until diplomacy is much harder, making your case to the world from a position of peace is much harder. That's the only chance the cause really has. That's the only chance it has. And so, this, like I said, sets things back. We could dive into this. We could spend hours on this. Obviously, it's one of the most complicated issues in the world. And so it's a long discussion. But I think the biggest thing, again, who's going to pay the price for all this? It's not the Netanyahu government. It's not the Ayatollahs in Tehran. It's not the leaders of Hamas and the PLA, right? It's the civilians on the ground. Mm-hmm. It's the women, children, and men, right, who are being slaughtered and traumatized in Israel, in the Palestinian territories. They're the ones that hurt, right? They're the pawns in this game of disgusting chess that suffer, and just that's tragic. That's tragic. And like always, the leaders don't pay the price, and that's just an unfortunate reality of the world that we live in.
Yeah, and I don't want to. We can put a little bit of a. We can wrap the talk up a little bit here because we have other topics. But I do wonder, and again, I know nothing. I've not been in any sort of position of authority or any sort of intelligence gathering organization for quite some time now. But there's, it's almost as if, the Hamas undertook this action with the expectation that others would be rallying behind them, and it seems like such a false assumption if that were the case, or they just didn't care and they just were going to go about cause as much death and destruction as they could and let the cards fly where they, because as you said, they're not going to be held accountable. They're not going to be the ones who wind up paying the price for that. So yeah, tough situation, Andy.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so we'll go on to our other topic. And Andy, we've talked a lot about politics here over the last couple of weeks. We had a big announcement yesterday. You want to talk to any of that, Andy? There's quite a stirring entry into the 2024 presidential race.
There is. So while a lot of people are angry about it, I think some pretty exciting news with Robert F. Kennedy yesterday in Philadelphia announcing his independent bid for the White House. Some polls, internal polling, I believe, has him at 14% right now for percentage points with Biden and Trump in a three-way election where they both come in the 30s. While that's not atypical, third-party candidates often garner good support in this phase of the election cycle, and that drops off when people have to actually cast a vote because they get sort of scared into making sure the other guy doesn't win politics. But look, we have right now the strong likelihood of 5 candidates being available in 2024, right? You've got the Republican Democratic nominees, presumably right now that's Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You've got RFK Jr., who has got the name recognition, got the fundraising ability, got some high publicity support from some Hollywood types. You've got Cornel West and the Green Party, which can get on the ballot in all 50 states in years past, and has caused problems, for elections and getting a couple points in the elections. And you've got a Libertarian Party candidate who will be on the ballot in all 50 states. So at the very least, there's a good chance, as we're still a year away from the election, of 5 candidates being on ballot. I think that's fantastic, right? So I'm really excited to see it. Now, again, I don't personally support any of the 4 the candidates that we know of, right? But that's besides the point, right? The great thing is to see RFK Jr. throwing a real monkey wrench into the election, and both the Democrats and Republicans trying to figure out, who does this hurt more? Can this help me? And they don't know. And the reality is they never know until people go and vote and show why they voted for one candidate or the other. So pretty exciting to see. For me, I know a lot of people are pissed off about it. I think it's pretty exciting, pretty good opportunity for democracy.
Yeah, I find this to be a fascinating election because, again, we have the 2 major party candidates, both going to be over 80 years old,
Yeah.
and both looking worse for the wear every day. I mean, frankly, let's call a spade here. I think the Democrats are really messing up, to be frank. I mean, I think Joe Biden, for whatever you want to say, good or bad about his first term has been, I think they're really boxing themselves into a tough position, not just for this election, but for future elections, by not putting anybody against him, or not even setting them say, hey, Joe, you did your duty. Thanks for helping us out here. We're going to move on and transition for the better part of what we feel is the country and this party. They're really in a tough situation. We all know where the Republicans are. They're a mess. If Donald Trump is the nominee again, they've set themselves back much further. And frankly, it's interesting to see all the comments come about RFK already, about joking on him and dispersing his bullet or dispel. I can't even speak again here, but blowing up what he believes in and all his craziness that they say he's associated with. We should expect that, right? I mean, of course, the 2 parties are going to come out and try to blast him so that it doesn't take away votes from their candidates. And then they'll blame him, of course, because then he will take votes away from somebody, and that'll be the votes that magically swayed the difference, without acknowledging that if they would just put together a real candidate in the first place, this wouldn't be the thing. So I do find this interesting. My hope, though, Andy, is I honestly, you mentioned five candidates. I wish all five candidates could get on the stage together and talk.
Oh yeah.
As is, these debates are just between two old people and people who are well past their Social Security mandatory retirement age, and and so I just wish they'd get on the stage together.
Well, I mean, that could happen, right? I mean, the Republican Democratic Party try to avoid that at all costs, right? But I mean, it could happen in years past. We did have, Ross Perot on the stage, many years back when you and I were both younger, and there's a potential for that. I think with if polling stays good for Kennedy, or if Cornel West comes up in the polls some, maybe gets above 5%. If the Libertarian candidate, when that person selected, gets above 5%, it could happen. And at a time when, again, Americans have never been more independent, never wanted to see more options than they do today, according to recent polling, just by the Pew Research Center, even the potential is there. And I think it's very interesting to see it happening, and I think it's exciting. I mean, while this might cause heartache for some individuals that are strong in one camp or the other, I think for Americans it's exciting to have options and exciting to see the possibility, and it creates conversations about the difficulty of getting on the ballot and sort of the games that the Republican Democratic Party have been playing to make it hard for others to be there, and that's a good discussion to potentially have here. So this could fizzle out. RFK could be off our radars come February, or it could cause a really interesting dynamic that plays out the next year. So he made this move early. There's a long time till Election Day 2024. We'll see what happens. It could be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm at the least I'm excited about it. I think this is always good when you get some new ideas on the stage and you get have some real discussions as opposed to just the same old talking points. But it is, I think you're right. I mean, if we could peel back the onion about campaigns and how all of that stuff works and how all these campaign finance reforms and all that stuff is supposed to be about making things equal, really favors the two-party system, which I think would be great if the American public could get to see that and see how they can make some changes here. So anyways, Andy, I think these are all great. We'll see how this all works out. And so on, anything else you want to touch on with this announcement, Andy?
Well, like if I throw a couple, just one to throw out a term that I liked, I think we can talk about, and then two, just for those that aren't familiar with RFK, so I'm pointing to a couple things that might be of interesting. So one, Reason Magazine did an interview with him. Nick Gillespie did an interview with RFK a couple months back. Long discussion. It gave RFK the floor to talk. Some good pushback against some of his wilder ideas, less popular ideas. A very good conversation to check out. And similarly, Liz Wolfe at Reason Magazine did a very good summary of RFK and some of the difficulties of some of his positions and things. So those could be worth checking out for those that are listening. They'd be a little curious about who this guy really is. But it goes into the point of, one of the challenges for RFK is his position on vaccines. He's supported other, I don't want to say conspiracy theories. I think that's really fair, kind of dismissive, but less popular opinions on certain topics. And it goes into the issue of a little acronym that I like to use that applies certainly just as well to Mr. Trump and many others in their current political dynamic. And that's an acronym. Dave, you and I both come from an Army background, right? We love acronyms. This one being the idea of waste, right? Like garbage, right? Waste, which stands for wild ass statements, theories, and exaggerations. And we live in a time where there's a lot of waste in politics, right? A lot of political hyperbole, a lot of things said flippantly without any substance behind them, but they throw them out there and kind of see what sticks. A lot of like nonsense comments that the American people know aren't necessarily true or accurate, but they get thrown out there for somebody to latch on to them. And so, there's going to be a lot of waste in this 2024 election cycle. I'm seeing some of that play out right now. And in Virginia, we've got a very important election coming up here in the next month, right? So I think it's an important idea to sort of wrap our heads around as we listen to Mr. Trump on the campaign trail, as we consider RFK Jr. and any other candidate that presents themselves, whether it's for the White House or for Congress or wherever. The idea of sort of the wild ass statements, theories, and exaggerations that get thrown about, very popular in Congress today, in some of the committee activities. I think it's important to keep in mind and try and challenge ourselves as to what am I really hearing here? Is this a substantiated fact? Is this opinion? Is this nonsense? And worth checking out. So I'll throw that out there. I'm sure we can come back to that another time.
Yeah, I like it. Maybe we could have our waste section of the week or something. We can have that as a segment here, Andy. I definitely enjoy that. And I think we'll probably have more than our share of statements that we can
Yeah.
pull out there. So I really like that. We'll add that to the cycle of segments here we got through. Andy, I can't help but notice also, as we're kind of speaking about politics here, your T-shirt you're wearing. Today it's a bright is that orange? I think it's
It is.
orange.
It is. It's lovely orange.
It's
Yes.
it's an orange and it's the number 45 on it. You got a what's the what, usually you're sporting a wrestling t-shirt, Macho Man, what's behind 45 here?
So for those that don't remember, Dave, from the days of our youth, there was a very popular, business, right? Which was Club Med, right? Today, people are much more familiar with sandals, the all-inclusive resort experience. But
Oh
back
yeah.
in the day, French-owned Club Med was sort of the haughty-toddy, all-inclusive experience one could have, and they still exist. And a few years ago, my wife and I went to the Dominican Republic and stayed at Club Med, and their inside thing is 45, which stands for Club Med, right? So I bought this T-shirt, nice orange T-shirt. I liked it. My wife got a black one. We're like, hey, you'll just remember our trip to Dominican Republic. Mine says Punta Cana on the back. Just just got a T-shirt. And what happens now is I walk around my neighborhood walking my little dogs. I get a lot of interesting looks because what I realize is a lot of people see this bright orange shirt and they think of a very bright orange man. Again, one Donald Trump, who was the 45th president of the United States, and they think I'm sending a political message. So in my neighborhood, I get a lot of looks of disgust as I walk around. A lot of people look at me like, you bastard, how dare you wear that shirt here? And then I also get a couple sort of like wry smiles, right? A couple nods, like guys that look at me, they won't say anything. It's kind of like, I see what you're doing there, brother. I'm with you, kind of thing. And I'm looking at all of them, thinking, hey, f off. I'm just wearing a Punta Cana T-shirt here. This is not a political statement, but people see what they want to see. So I'm running a little bit at risk today wearing this T-shirt. Again, during a political season, it could become hostile. So if I come back with a bruised eye or something, for our next call, just you know why. But I love the shirt. It was a great memory. Dominican Republic was a great trip, great place to check out if you want. Although it's a little bit some security matters there, but hey, it was a great time. And this is not a political statement, just a memory shared with my wife.
Yeah, I know, Andy. Actually, the 45 is actually a Q. You're the man behind the curtain, right? Q is coming back. It's kind of funny. I saw on a lot of posts this weekend or maybe the last week or something. A lot of people going, "See, here's the secret order. Did you hear what Trump said about this?" And
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Q is back. Q is back.
I get
So
that Q drop.
I tell you, you never know. It might spike our ratings here. Maybe we should start talking about that kind of stuff, Andy. Uh, all right, Andy. Andy, we got a long week ahead of us. We had a great start to this week. So, Andy, anything to sign off with as we wrap up this podcast?
No, it's been a pleasure, Dave. Good week here. Look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Well, you've got a good weekend leading into this week. So, Andy, with all of that, we will catch you next time.